G'day guys, welcome back to my channel. My name is Wildkard. Thank you for being here and watching my content. As always, it is my pleasure and privilege to talk about the greatest game in the world. No, the greatest sport in the world, rugby. And yes, this will be the final episode of 2023. Another year has gone by, and what that means is Super Rugby. It's less than 2 months away, and I'll give you my predictions for Super Rugby. Some big shuffle up in Super Rugby, actually. There is a lot of the high coaches from the, strong Super Rugby teams has moved on to the pinnacle of All Blacks rugby. They have all become, the assistant coaches, the top coaches from all the clubs, pretty much have all become assistant coaches under Razor for the All Blacks, which means the only team that was untouched by the pillage of the Razor All Blacks era was the Chiefs, which means the winner of the Super Rugby in 2024 will be the Melbourne Rebels. Just kidding. It's going to be the Chiefs. I think the Chiefs will be the one that's left most unharmed by the new recruitments of the All Blacks coaching staff. And like the Blues is losing, what's his name? The head coach. Hurricanes lost the head coach, I think, as well. Crusaders have lost from head coach all the way to assistant coaches. They've all gone to the gone to the All Blacks. So yeah, I think the main focus that is untouched is the Chiefs. Especially Chiefs was really good last year as well. So I think the Chiefs might be the winners going into next year. Unless the Rebels pulls out a historical upset and win the Super Rugby, right? From out of nowhere. I'm still waiting on that day to happen, but there's always a chance for the Melbourne Rebels to make me proud for once in my lifetime. Anyway, with that being said, there's some big news out of Australia this week or last week. The Australians has recruited a couple of ex management role personnels from the past. So one of the big ones is this guy here, David Lucifora. He was basically working for Australian Rugby ARU at the time in just around 2021 to 23, so early 2010s. And his plan was to basically build like a centralized structure for Rugby Australia. At the time, Australian Rugby was already visibly declining, and his proposal was basically like not accepted by the management at the time, and he then moved overseas to Ireland. And basically, from my understanding, is that he kind of like used what he put his vision into Ireland, and with the help of a lot of the Irish Rugby Union, they were able to basically turn Ireland into such a powerhouse that we saw today, with a lot of depth, a lot of talent, a lot of grassroots, with all the clubs aligning for the national team and performing so well in recent times. A lot to do with this guy's work behind the scenes, and he's returned to Australian Rugby as a advisory role. So for Ireland, he was a high performance director, but for the Wallabies, he will be, or for Australia at the moment, will be at least advisory role. Maybe they just try to ease him into a more prominent position slowly. So that is one very, very big move for Rugby Australia. Second guy coming in is Peter Horn, who has again worked in high performance developmental areas overseas with Saracens, with Samoa, and he was also working with World Rugby as well, just in high performance levels development in different markets for World Rugby as well. So both of them will come in to kind of like to essentially focusing on the alignment structure that Rugby Australia has been talked about so much. So for Horn, his main role, as stated here by this report, is Super Rugby centralization and a high performance system, and really trying to develop a pathway. South Australian Rugby is very, very lacking right now. For Lucifora, he's still contracted to Ireland Rugby till after the Olympics, so he'll be coming a little bit later as an advisory role. And with the addition to David Lucifora, one of the big name has thrown into the hat for the Wallabies head coach is Joe Schmidt. Because the whole Ireland, becoming prominent under the Joe Schmidt era, beating the All Blacks the first time in America, in Chicago, all of that was the fruit of the plan that David Lucifora and Joe Schmidt kind of put together and really put Ireland in such a good spot. And after they transitioned on into Andy Farrell, Ireland is just still looking absolutely phenomenal. So with with David back in Australia, there is some very serious talk about potentially getting his old mate come along for the ride to rebuild Australian rugby with Joe Schmidt on board. My speculation with Joe Schmidt is that he might not do it. Just because he thought he kind of talked about after leaving Ireland that the stress and the main thing that was basically putting a lot of a toll on his family. And I know that he has a disabled son that he likes. Like, one of the things that he said he wanted to do is to spend more time with him. That is why he moved away from being the Ireland head coach and moved to New Zealand. And he was basically retired before slowly being tempted to rejoining the Blues as an armchair general sort of position, sitting at the back, just having a look at everything, to then becoming the All Blacks, armchair guy at the back, just having a look sort of thing, and then becoming the All Blacks assistant coach, just slowly kind of drawing him back into the role sort of thing. But his main thing is to one of the main thing is to he's stated in the past is to not really wanting to put so much burden on his family once again. So I actually think that if he was offered the All Blacks role, maybe he would have taken it because he would be based in New Zealand. For him to move overseas again, I guess, to Australia, I actually think that he might not be interested, to be honest. I'll be very surprised if Joe Schmidt actually just come in and become the Wallabies coach, taking on a role that is more difficult than what he had in the past with Ireland, especially with what he stated, the reasoning for leaving Ireland, which was to spend more time with his disabled child. I think that it's I find it very, I think Joe Schmidt will probably be very tentative. He might come in as an assistant coach, like he did with the All Blacks, but I think that as a head coach, driving the Wallabies, putting himself under all that pressure again, I don't think he would do that. I really don't think. We'll see. We'll see if my prediction is right, but I really don't think he will do that. In fact, I think the most likely candidate is probably the Brumbies head coach at the moment, Larkham, or maybe even Michael Cheika, to be honest. But yeah, we'll see how that goes. But the currently the big talk is Joe Schmidt might come on board for the Wallabies as the partner in crime for Ireland sort of thing. The two duos getting back together. Now let's move on to England. There's a bit of a, there's a plan that has been reviewed by the RFU the last week that has set a lot of people on edge in the Premiership clubs. So the RFU, basically 3 clubs were under last year. The Worcester Warriors, the Wasps, and the London Irish all went under in 1 year. As a result, the RFU is trying to find a new spot for them, and they've been trying to put them into the second tier division, by putting them into the B division essentially, to try to fit them into the new season, into the the upcoming season, and this has obviously this obviously like an issue because there's a lack of talent. So the RFU has also proposed in the proposal that there will be a player cap. So the number of players that you're allowed to have, it will be capped, I think, at 35, and then like 12, developmental talent is allowed for each club. So with this sort of setup, the RFU is hoping that the talent gets trickled down into the B division, and thus driving the competitiveness in that division and giving giving another lifeline essentially to the Wasps, to London Irish, and the Worcester Warriors. And the Jersey Red. So I forgot about them. They were already in the B division. Some of the clubs has not responded well to this plan for obvious reasons, having caps. My understanding is that there were some clubs with a lot of talents, like the Harlequins have a lot of talent under their management, that they don't want to let that let that go. And just, a lot of clubs think that it's not, it really damages the way that they run their business, their competitive advantage sort of thing. And also there's a lot of clubs who really felt like it's not fair to try to strict them and then try to feed into clubs that kind of went bankrupt, right? Like, trying to save the clubs that were poorly managed by sacrificing themselves. So a lot of clubs are not really down with that as well. So there's a bit of chatter on this in England right now. We'll see how that turns out. But yeah. Also, this was already included some more control to the England rugby team with the head coach Steve Borthwick. They're gonna pay players who are gonna be playing for England. Not players, but the clubs. They're gonna give clubs additional money, like things like £50,000 per year or something per player, to allow the England rugby have more access to the players and giving the players, I guess, more having more control on how the players will be used in their club levels as well. So there's a lot of kind of centralizing going on in England as well. Ireland has added another assistant coach to replace Mike Catt. Mike Catt, famously for being run over by John Olomu, and I think that's the highlight of his career, and he hasn't really done anything else that is more prominent than that. Memory serves me right. And then Andrew Goodman is the one that's going in to replace him, taking over his spot. And Goodman was formerly a Crusaders guy, so a lot of experience there. A lot of the New Zealand knowledge will be going into Ireland once again. Manu Tuilagi, the guy who's been kind of plagued by injuries, especially around Six Nations, is once again hit by a groin injury, and it's gonna see him potentially out of the early stages of the Six Nations once again. Repeats itself, history. Oops. Next up, we've got the guy that's going to destroy Joseph Suaalii at the Lions Tour for his debut, for Suaalii's debut, Lions Tour debut, and the Wallabies debut. So Duhan van der Merwe, the premier, I guess, winger in Northern Hemisphere right now, has signed with Scotland. What is it? What team is it? Edinburgh till 2025. So after the Lions Tour, essentially, or just about the time of the Lions Tour. So he's been locked down in Scotland. There has been some backtracking salary breaches happening in France. So Cheslin Kolbe was transferred in 2021, August. And it is found that this transfer breached the salary cap that was allowed in the top 14 between Toulouse and Toulon. And as a result, both clubs will be fined. One for Toulouse will be fined for 50,000 euros, and Toulon will be fined for 70,000 euros, 1.4 million rand. For this transfer. Not sure exactly how. I mean, I don't actually understand how if you transfer one guy from the other club, both clubs will be in breach of salary cap. I mean, if both clubs had the salary cap and one club buys another player from another club, then the purchasing club would have been the one that breaches the salary cap. The one that's selling the player should not be breaching the salary cap, right? But I think both clubs must have been over the salary cap. In fact, I think maybe the club that was selling Cheslin Kolbe already breached the cap. That's why they were selling him, and the club that was buying Kolbe, breached the cap post purchase. I think that's probably what happened. Otherwise, it doesn't really make sense how both clubs was breaching the salary cap. But yeah, that is something that happened in 2021 that's being caught up. Alun Wyn Jones has revealed that he's got a little bit of a heart condition. A guy that was pretty much known to be one of the workhorses, really good cardio guy, well late into his career. Has revealed that he has a bit of a heart condition, irregular heart rate, so got to take care of himself, I guess. Well, Alun Wyn Jones, you wouldn't expect that from, such a tough former Welsh captain, but I wish him well. Hopefully he gets look after himself and take care of his heart condition. The South Africans had a derby, and Manu Tuilagi kicked 5 out of 5 in this derby, beating the Bulls. The Stormers beating the Bulls and you can go watch this if you like. But the South Africans' involvement in European rugby has triggered, none other than, what's his name? Lawrence Dallaglio has come out, basically said that he felt like the South Africans, in his podcast, the South Africans are getting way too much benefit, essentially, for playing the Champions League. He's kind of like on the fence of trying to get the South Africans out of the Champions Cup. He's basically, for two reasons. One, he basically saying that for the European champions clubs, for the European clubs traveling to South Africa to play these games is really like onerous for the teams, especially playing in altitude, playing in the heat as well, because it's summer down here. It really just makes it like too much burden on the players for the Europeans. That's number one. Number two, this is just way too many like opportunity, essentially, he's saying, for the South Africans to develop their squad. They're playing basically 360 days a year. They have, rugby championship in the off season, and then they play, when it's off season here in Southern Hemisphere, they play the rugby basically all year long. And he thinks that's just, too much rugby for South Africans, and maybe, he's worried the South Africans gonna go on to win 2 or 3 more Rugby World Cup as a result of all the exposure they're getting from both North and Southern Hemisphere rugby that they're involved in. Yeah, let me know your thoughts on his bit of a controversial take. And finally, Ben Youngs, the veteran 34-year-old, has signed another season with the Leicester Tigers under the tutelage of the former Brumbies head coach, Dave McKellar. So yes, Ben Youngs has extended his season, and that is the news this week, guys. Thanks for watching, and like, comment, subscribe. Thanks for everyone who supported me this year. Even if you watch this video for 1 second, I do appreciate all the clicks, all the comments. I read pretty much all the comments. If not like most of the comments in some of the videos, maybe there were too many. I missed a few. But yeah, I try to, really appreciate everybody's involvement in watching my content. And it's been a good year, Rugby World Cup year. Wallabies had a... Let's not talk about the Wallabies, okay? Let's just pretend that, let's just pretend that was just a bad dream. And yes. And yes, so Rugby World Cup, really good. All Blacks, South Africa, final. Can't really ask for more. Can't really ask for anything better. 2 top teams, absolute best of the best in the world, and very proud of my Southern Hemisphere cousins doing their work. And yes, so have a good one. Have a good, Happy New Year. I'll see you guys next year for more rugby content. And have a good one, guys. See you guys later. Cheers.